Okay, let's talk about percentages. So what is this percent thing? Well, it's per, so it's a rate, because we learned that rates are per. Biscuits eaten per day, kilometers traveled per hour, um, orange slices per cricket or soccer match eaten. It's a rate. So there we have a rate, which is often a ratio, which talks about ratio. And then cent means, it comes from, I think, Latin or Greek, for century. And century means 100, like 100 runs in cricket. Or 100 years is a century. So, percent. What am I really doing? If I take 4 over 20 as a fraction, I want to break that denominator down. Remember, the denominator means how many pieces of pizza did I cut that into. And I got it into 20, but I only have 4 of them. So we've got to know what these numbers mean. 4 per 20 pieces. And that's per. My divide sign is often per, that fraction line. What I do is I need to turn this not into 20 pieces, but into 100 pieces. Now, we decided way back when that 100 was a good number. What is the boiling point of water? It's actually 100 degrees Celsius. 100 is a very good measurement. There are 100 centimeters in a meter. We got 10 fingers on our hands, so I got one like this. And if 10 people have 100 fingers, it's a good number. So I'm breaking that fraction down into even smaller parts. And the reason why we do it is because if Pete and Sunny and Kate and Leopold, if they all use the same denominator, to compare their different slices of pizza, to compare their marks, then they've got a common denominator. I can't at all say denominator. If Pete had something over 86, and Sunny, maybe he had 70 over 86, and Sunny had something over 43, let's put it at 36. Then Kate had something over 23 and she got 20 out of that 23. Whatever you want to, the story you want to tell yourself about what that fraction means. And Leopold got something over 56, he got 50. Can I compare these numbers yet? I can't. Who's the bigger one? We don't know yet. Who's the smaller one? We don't know yet. So we need a common denominator, or we need a common number to compare everything in the entire universe and world. So it's the comparison of everything. And you say, what does this really mean? Well, it's this whole story of what part is 70? That's the part. And what part is 86? 86 is actually the whole. It's this theory of part to whole. This is a part of the whole number. The whole, like one, okay, it's a very large pizza to cut into 86 pieces. What can I cut into 86 pieces? Tape. I've got tape that I use to tape people's fingers. I don't know if they're hurting. And maybe it's like healing tape. And I cut that tape into 86 pieces, and I say you can have this tape for the rest of your life, and it'll help your fingers to heal if you caught a really hard cricket ball. Okay, because cricket balls are quite hard. Please, but we all know that when you catch a cricket ball, you got to bring it into your body. We all know that. You can't just catch it and let it just stop at your hand. Your hand will get very sore. It'll be like punching a wall, because the wall doesn't move. But if you punch a punching bag, yeah, we know all this stuff. If you punch a punching bag, the punching bag moves and your hand doesn't get sore. But if you punch a wall, it doesn't move, so it gives you back the force, and then we hurt our hand. And in other words, we pull our hands, pretend this is a really good drawing, we pull our hands towards our body when we catch that ball, so that it still keeps moving, like the bag can move away. Your hands need to be the bag that moves away. Yeah, we know that stuff. Okay, that's just interesting. So this is my healing tape. I'm coming up with a nice story here. This is my healing tape that you're going to have the rest of your life, and it's for your fingers. And okay, so I've made it into 86 parts. Now it's one tape. It's one tape that's wound up forever. If you've ever been fishing, you know that fishing line, there's a lot of line. You get one reel. I think I got one reel as a kid, and I think I still have that reel. That reel of fishing line is kilometers long. You have that stuff forever. Okay, so it doesn't really run out. So I've got one tape. So I've got a hole. But I've divided this hole into 86 parts. And how many parts has he used in primary school and high school? He's used, pretend this is 86, he's used, what, like 70 of those parts. Okay, so he's used a part of the whole piece of tape. A part of the whole piece of tape. And that's where percentages come from. It's a part of one whole. Now, if you get 100% for a test, it means you know everything. And that's why when we give you a mark like 100 over 100, it's actually 1. It means that you know absolutely everything. You get 95, well done, but it's only a part of the whole. It's not the whole. We still have 5% of work still to catch up. Okay, nice. So percentages, I've got to compare everyone, and we've chosen 100. If we chose 56 for some other reason, because we had 8 fingers on our hand and 8 toes on our feet, maybe we'd have chosen a different number. But the number we like to choose is 100, and accounts for the whole of that number. So this has been divided into 20 pieces. The bottom is the whole. Then I want a number over 20, and so what did I do to 20 to get to 100? Well, I cut it up into smaller pieces. So I times by 5. So I cut it up into smaller pieces that I have 100 pieces. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Why? Because if I times by 1, no matter what this number is, I still get the number out. I haven't changed how big or small this number is. I just might have cut it up into smaller pieces, but the whole still represents that much. So I can say times 5 over 5. I can say, let me use this button. I can say 20 over 20. I can say 18 over 18, because 18 over 18 is one whole. So I can times by the bottom and the top and not change what the number actually is. Okay, so that's what we're going looking for percentages. So 4 times 5 is 20. So 4 out of 20 is the same as 20 out of 100. As soon as it's out of 100, I can take this line, and instead of putting that line, I can say per And instead of putting 100, I can, instead of saying 20 per 100, that seems long, we call this cents. Like there's 100 cents in a rand. Okay, so I now start to say 20%. But we wanted to make this even smaller because we wanted to give a button on our calculator, a symbol that represents that. So we said 20%. Now, 20% is a small part of the whole. Now, this gets interesting because when I go to the bank and I put money in the bank, so here's my bank, and I put money in the bank. Why would I put money in the bank? Why would the bank advertise that you can put money into it? A large amount. Because you can earn something called interest. And when I earn interest on money that I save in the bank, say for instance I take 2,000 Rand to the bank, and I'm not just going to keep it there, I want to earn some interest. And they say to me, well, the percentage of this whole that we're going to give you per year, let's pick a percentage. They're going to say, well, you're going to earn a percent, a per 100, a per something of this whole. And let's pick 5%. So I'm going to earn interest. The bank's going to pay me to keep my money in their bank. Because how do they lend other people money? Well, it's money you put in. And it all works together. They also put money on the stock exchange and all sorts of things, and you've got lots of different policies. But they pay you interest so you can earn interest. That's why we don't put all our money under the bank, under the bed, because we can earn interest on it. Okay, otherwise we'd all be putting it under the bed. Well, if you're safe and you've got secure, you live in a secure place. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm going to give you a 5% of your total amount per year. What does that really mean? It means, what is 5%? Now, this is interesting. What is a 5% of 2,000? Well, in my mind, I go, well, what's 10% of 2,000? So 2, 1, 2, 3. 10%. Now, 10 over 100 is 10 divided by 100. What is 10 divided by 100? It is 10, comma 0, 0. And we'll put some zeros there as well. And I have moved this comma 1, 2 places because I got 2 zeros. That's what it really means. So I got 0, 1, 0. So if I divide by 100, I move the comma 2 spaces to the left. Okay, so I've got 0, 1, 0. Then I want to find out how much is 10% of this. So I can either put this into my calculator and say 2,000 times 0, 1, or I can say, this is just for 10%. And you say, but you've got 5%. I'm going to half it later. So, or I can say 2,000 times 10 over 100, or times 10 divided by 100. Okay. Or, and these are just calculations you can do in your head. We learn specific formulas and calculations that we do, which makes sense to us. Okay. Or I can say 2,000. How much is 10 out of 100? It's actually 1 over 10. So I can say times 1 over 10. Do you agree that 10 over 100 is simplified? Divide by 10, divide by 10. I've got 1 over 10. Which gives me 2,000 divided by 10. And what do I do when I divide it by 10? 2000 divided by 10. I take the comma back one space. So 2000 divided by 10, your calculator should give you that it's 200 Rand. Your calculator here should give you that it's 200 Rand. Your calculator here, well, you've done it here. You can do it on your calculator, but it's the same process. I can take the comma one back and I've got 200. Okay, 3 different ways of thinking about it. Now I don't have 10%, I have 5%. So 10%, and we have this percentage sign that we needed to express as a symbol, meaning per or divide by, cent divide by 100. This means divide by 100. Okay, so 2000, 10% of 2000 is 200. 5%, what did I do? I divided both sides by 2. And 5% is 100 Rand. So the bank, if I put 2,000 Rand in the bank this is quite a good rate. 5% is pretty good rate. At the end of the year, I will have made 100 Rand in interest. And what do I take out of the bank at the end of the year? My total that I maybe want to take out, if I don't want to re-put it in again, my total in the bank at the end of the year is going to be the original amount, the 2,000, plus the interest earned. Interest is actually an income. It's classed as an income. So when you do your taxes, when your folks do their taxes, they have to include any interest they earned in the bank in their taxes. So 2,000 plus 100, and I'm going to have my total in my bank account at the end of 1 year is going to be 2,100 Rand. Now we can split this up into much easier calculations through a formula. So I had 2,000 that I put in the bank, and I put it in at 5% interest. That means 5 per 100 parts of the whole. That's 100 parts is the whole. So this is a part. Remember that this represents a part of this whole. And I've broken that whole down into 100. Okay, it represents a part of the whole. Okay, so I'm going to say 2,000 times 5 over 100. Now, how many years did I put it in the bank? Well, if I get interest per year, I'm going to say times 1 year. But how can I make this into a formula? We understand it. How can I make this into a formula? Well, what does this give me out? This gives me out 100 Rand. But what is this 100 Rand called? It's called interest earned. And maybe the reason why it was called interest was because it keeps your interest that you still want to keep that money in. You know. So, what can I say? I can say that interest, big I, is for interest. So interest is equal to this equation. And you say, well, that's not an equation. It's just us thinking about it. Well, we can make it into an equation. Now, in bank terms and in financial terms, we call this the principal amount. The principal amount is the first amount you put in. So I'm going to say interest is equal to the principal. Now principal is a new word, but that's fine. Principal is like the most important. Your principal, that's the money you put in. That's the first money you put in. Then times, And I have an interest rate. And my interest rate I can either times by 5 over 100 or I can times by 0,05. But whether you use 5 over 100 or you use 0,05, make sure if you're turning this into a decimal that you got the right decimal. If I say 0,5, I'm saying it's 50%. Yo, then you're making 1,000 rand. The bank made a boo-boo. Okay, so then times 1 year. And the year we're going to say for the time that was in. And what do I call this 0,05? Well, I call it the interest rate. The rates, R is for rate, the rates at which our interest is made. Because maybe my rates in 3 years' time, maybe my rates will become 7.5%. Then I'll have to go 7,5 divided by 100. Or I'll have to say 0,075. And I times this. Let's quickly do that. 2,000 times 0,075 times 1 year. Please quickly pause and put that on your calculator and find out what it says. And did you get 150 rand? Now we're not dealing in yen, in rupees, in dollars, in pounds, in any other kind of currency. We're dealing in rands. So you need to put your units here. So that's for interest. But do you remember that we totaled the amount at the end of the year, all the money in the bank? The total amount is the principal, or what we put in first. You've got to get used to this word principal. It's in accounting as well and economics. The principal plus the interest is the interest made or interest earned is the total, which is going to be 2,100. But how do we turn that into a formula? Well, so that we can use it forever. Well, we kind of use this. A means accumulated. What does it mean if you accumulate stuff? You get lots of it. You take it all. Accumulate. This is the accumulated amount. So A stands for the accumulated amount. That means everything. It means everything. Which means the total. Okay. Accumulated amount is A. Means everything. Is equal to the principal, or what we put in. Principal plus interest. Now, there's one extra way that we that we do this. And the extra way is this. It's kind of bright yellow. This looks more like gold. Okay, so I can also say that accumulated amounts, so A, is equal to the principal plus, and what is interest? My formula for interest was now I'm putting in for interest. How did I originally find interest? I found interest by, I'm going to put this in a bracket so that you can see it's by itself. By taking the original amount timesing the rate, in other words, the percentage or the part of 100, this makes it a part of that whole, times the amount of time that I have it in the bank for. Now, later on, when I have this, because it's all times each other, can you see the interest is this? That's what we wrote out the interest to be. Later on, if I've got, say for instance, I've got 2 plus 2 times 4 times 7. over something. Maybe over 2. What I can do is, this is a full number. If it's times, it's a full number. It's seen as one term together. What I can do is later on, I take out this 2 and I say 1 plus 4 times 7. Let's see if this worked. Because then this number in the bracket is seen as one number. And that's what we do in the future. But we don't need to think about that right now. All we need to think about, that's coming in the future, but we don't need to do it now. All we need to think about is we're saying P plus the interest. And the interest is this thing. For that's the accumulated amount. And they can see, say for instance, give you the rates, give you the interest earned, give you the time, and you have to go back and find out what this amount was. Oh my gosh. But that's doing an equation. So if my principal is, for instance, let's give it a variable, let's give it a y. So I don't know what it is yet. I can say my interest, and they'll give you a number, is equal to y times, they'll give you a number. Let's put numbers to this. So say for instance my interest is 200 and my rate is 10% and my time is 1. What was my principal? What was the first amount of money that I put in? Well, I can say interest is equal to y. This is my variable from algebra. I can put an x in as well. Times my rate times my time. But I know the stuff because they've given it to me. 200 is equal to y times 0,1 or 10 over 100 times 1. If I times 1, it's not going to change anything. Then what I do to the one side, I do to the other. I've got an equal sign here. So I can actually, with algebra, if I say 2 times x equals 10, what is x? Well, we know it's 5. But how did we get there? We actually said, let's divide this side by 5. And shorthand, we like to just do this. Divided by 5. Ooh, what am I saying? Divided by 2. Can you see it's... That's funny. Can you see it's connected to the 2? So it's 2 times x. I've got to do the opposite operation. So I've got to divide this thing by 2. So that I've got 1 over 1, which means I've just got 1x is equal to, but what I do on the one side of an equal sign, I do on the other. So I divide this by 2. So one of those x's, or x, is equal to 5. So I've got to do the opposite operation. To get that 2 out, it's 2 times x. I divide by 2. And I divide by 2 the other side. Okay. In the same way, if I've got this, we don't need to say times 1 because anything times 1 is itself. So we can leave that out for now. And I've got y times 0.1. What's the opposite? I can say divide by 0.1. And any number, 365 over 365, just becomes 1. So now I've got 1y on the one side, and I've got 200 divided by 0.1. 200 divided by 0.1. You put it in your calculator. Bob's your uncle. I've got 2,000 was my principal, or my starting amount. And that makes sense because now I made it into 10%. That's why I got 200 instead of 100. Okay, there are many different ways of explaining VAT. VAT is just 15% interest that the government puts onto different products. Okay, but it's 15% or 15% of the whole, or 0.15 of the whole, okay, of the whole amount. So if I take something like 5,000 Rand and I say, now what's the difference between the word exclusive and the word inclusive? Inclusive means it's already inside. It's already inside. It's already a part of this thing. It's already a part or inside it. In for inside. Exclusive means I haven't yet added it. It's still outside. Exclusive, outside. Haven't added that part yet. The part yet. And the part of my whole is 15%. So what is 15%? Now, if you don't have if your teacher says don't use a calculator, or the test or exam says don't use a calculator, easy way to say 15 over 100 is 10 over 100. Find out what 10% is, and then add half of that, if that makes sense. So maybe 10% of 5,000 would be 500, because I take the comma 1 back, I divide it by 10, because 1 over 10 is 10%. And there was half of 500. You've got it. 250. So 10 plus 5, or 15% of that, is going to be 750 Rand. But you can do it on the calculator if you want to. If you can, if the test says you can, great. You can do it on the calculator. You can say 15 times 15 over 100, or 0.15. Or in your mind, you can split it up like this if you're not using a calculator. Now, what we just did now was exclusive. That means I need to work out what 15% of this 5,000 is, and then add it. So I've got 5,000 plus the 15% we worked out as, how much was 15%? 750. So what I sell it for at the shops is going to be 5,750 Rand. And that is now including the VAT, which is value added tax. It's now including, but this amount is excluding it. Now, let's take green here. That's a cool color. Let's take this and say, how can we find again? I do like this color. 5,750. How can we find out? Say, for instance, they don't tell us what the VAT was, and we need to find out how much of this was VAT. Well, this is an interesting thing, because in this there is a whole, which is the whole of the amount, and in this there's also a part of this exact same whole of the amount. Agreed? So 5,000 is the amount, and we decide on 15% of that whole, which is 750 Rand. So the whole amount that we had plus the percentage or the part of that whole is included in this. Both amounts are included in this final amount. Both amounts, the whole and the percentage and the part of the whole, are included. But we needed to find out either what the whole was or the part of the whole. Now, let's talk in terms of parts of wholes. The parts of the whole. There are two ways to go about this. One way is to say, well, I've got a whole as a ratio to the whole plus part of the whole. I can also say 100 in a ratio to 100 plus 15. Okay, this is percent. So 100%, these are percent ratios. Percent. Okay, those are percent ratios. I can say 100 to 115. The whole to the whole plus a part. Then I can say, what is the whole plus a part? Well, it's 5750. And I had to times by something here to get this. In order to find out what I times by, you're going to do this. I times it by something to get to 5750. So I divide it by 115. And then I times it by 100 again to find my original amount. Now this is lots of workings out and lots of thinking. But instead of doing this, we have an easier formula which you're going to use. We have a much easier formula. And the formula for this, you can either say, now there's 115% in this number, 5,750. There's 115% in it. It's not 100. The VAT is included in it. There's not a whole part. There's a whole plus another 15% of that part inside that number. So I'm going to divide by a whole and 15%. Can you see that one represents a whole? If I just divide this by 1, I'm going to have the same number. But I've got to divide it by 1,15. If I divide it by 0,15, I'm talking about interest that's part of that, and then I add it. So in that number is a whole and 15% of that whole. So I'm going to get out of here, if I do this, I'm going to get 5,000, and I'm going to get my principal amount. Another way of doing it is saying the whole inclusive, but it's not the first amount, but inclusive of 15%. So it's 100% plus 15% is inside there. A whole minus the interest. And how did I actually work out the interest? From the included VAT, I no longer said 5,000 times 15 over 100. That would be 15% of this. But I don't have 100% in there. I now have 115% inside that figure. VAT inclusive. It includes VAT. There's 115% inside that figure. So I'm going to take my interest as the whole times 15% of what is the whole now. It isn't the principal. It's after I've added the whole with the part. And this interest will give you, if you put it, pause now and put it, just this part, you're going to say 5750 times, please put a bracket here. Please put a bracket here for your calculator. So put a bracket, 15 divided by 115, and a bracket again. And just do this calculation in the brackets and find out what you get. And what do you know? That interest was 5,750 minus, this is the interest, because I'm taking out that 15% of the whole plus 15%, which gives me 750. And so I'm left with 5,000. So I know my original amount. Please be careful. This is the original amount. This is not the working out the interest. How do you work out the interest? Well, you say 5750 minus 5,000. So there are two ways in which to do this. Number one, you divide by 1 whole and 15 parts of 100, because this represents tens and this represents hundreds. So 15 hundredths, which is percentage. So I divide by 1 whole and 15 over 100, or divide by 1,15. Learn this. The second way we do it, an alternative way that we do it, is we say the amount, VAT inclusive, minus the amount times 115 over 115. Please, your calculator can't necessarily do BODMAS, so you're going to put brackets around there. Both of these things will give you 5,000 Rand, which will give you what was the amount excluding VAT. This was the amount excluding VAT. Now, let's do a few examples. Okay, so Donovan decided to purchase his own lawnmower and return his uncle's lawnmower. The price for a new lawnmower was this. Please underline whatever is necessary. It's not necessary for us to know it's a lawnmower or what his name is. The 8,050 is inclusive. What does that mean? Exactly. It has the VAT inside it. What is the price of the lawnmower excluding VAT? So I've got a number. I've got, here's 4.1. I've got 8,050. And my VAT is 15%. I can use this first equation or the second equation. Please try it with both equations to make sure that you know how to use them both. You won't be tested on one specific one. The first one is just a bit easier if you learn that you divide the number by 1.15 to get to the original. Meaning 1 is a whole, 15 is the part, 1 and a whole. I take away that part, I'm dividing by it to get what I originally got. So 8050 divided by 1,15 equals, what does that equal? 7,000. So my original amount was 7,000. Okay. 4.2. The hardware shop buys the lawnmowers from the manufacturer at a price of 5,750. Calculate the percentage profits. Another time, percentage profits the hardware shop makes if they sell a lawnmower at 8050. Ignore the VAT. Now this is an interesting one, but I don't think we'll do it in your grade at the moment. What we would really like to do is we would say the hardware shop buys a lawnmower from the manufacturer at a price of that. Okay. We would say, how much profit did I make? That's the real question. How much profit did I make? Well, 8050 minus 5750, which gives me something. Let me quickly put it on my calculator. Okay, so that's 2,300 Rand. That's a huge markup. That's like 60 or 70% markup. Anyway, oh, and we want to find out what the markup is, or what the percentage of the profits. Calculate the percentage profit, the hardware. So what they're really asking is, what is that percent of the whole? So 2,300 Rand is some kind of percent of 5,750 Rand. Can you see I divided them by each other? This is the parts and this is the whole. The more you do this, actually, the more it makes sense. So this is the part and this is the whole. But what percentage is that? When I divide it, I'm going to get a number like 0.6 or 0.7 or 0.8. Well, maybe 0.4. It is 2,300 because half of 57 is 28.5. Yeah, so it should actually be less than 50%. So I've got a part divided by a whole, which will give you a comma. Now that comma needs to be times by 100 to turn it into a percentage. Okay, so let me quickly do this on my calculator. So do it on yours while I'm doing it on mine. 2,300 divided by 5,750. Oh, and it gives me a nice number. Equals, what part of the whole is this? That's 0.4 of the whole. But 0.4 as a percentage, you can see that this is the tenths. Then you have the, oh, hello. Don't go off. Don't go off. Okay. Let's put it up here. Hundredths. And so I've got 40 hundredths. Those are my counting principles. So I've got to times this 0.4 times 100 to get a percentage. Means it something over 100, which will give me 40%. You've got to do quite a few of these. So I'm going to give you a bit of homework. So you're going to do I'm going to give you number 1. I have something is 6,000 Rand. These are just coming off the top of my head, so it might not be exact. You might have some cents. And that is including VAT. What was the original amount? Okay, what was the original amount? Then number 2, I have something that I sold for 10,000 Rand, and you're obviously going to get some decimals rounded off to cents, and that's excluding VAT. And please tell me what the original amount was. The original, in other words, excluding VAT amount. And this 10,000, please tell me what this 10,000 excluding VAT, what it would be including VAT. Now that's pretty easy. Actually, that's too easy. Maybe I should make another one. Including VAT. So tell me what including VAT is. Let's see. Including VAT. Okay. So including VAT, let's see. So this was 40% markup of 40% of this. Let's see. Donovan does not. Wow, Donovan's got a whole story about him. Donovan does not have enough money to buy a lawnmower cash. Oh. He has the option to buy the lawnmower on hire purchase. Hire purchase just means it's kind of like a loan. With the following conditions. Often you have to pay a deposit of 10%. What's 10% of that? It's 805. And the deposit is often taken off the full amount in what you have to repay. But let's not talk about interest rates and terms for now. Calculate the deposit amount, 10% of that. I take away a comma. So that's 805. 800, oh, that's a weird 805. Calculate the loan amount after the deposit was paid. Well, that's going to be 8050 minus 805. So let's see. 8050 minus 805. And in the long run, he needs to pay in his loan agreement 7,245 Rand. He needs to pay this amount over 4 years. Shame. This guy needs more money. Calculate the interest he needs to pay on the loan amount. Okay, we're going to do that a little bit later. If you are in grade 8 or 9, please do these for me and send it to me. Okay, send it to me. Oh, I like this one. If the price of the machine increases from this to this, calculate the percentage increase. Well, I say this minus this divided by the original price times 100, just like we did here. Okay, the most important part is including VAT. And then interest on something is part of a whole. Please give this to me if you are, please do this for homework for me if you are in grade 8.